volunteer to stay back at the office while everybody are doing teleworking.
Isn't everybody essential?
Oh,
Yes,
Well,
Lord.
Martin, we
except
were going to
you.
tell you,
Philosopher.
but
Well, this is an odd way of breaking the news, Susan.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just feel like there's an
Chair,
intervention
Okay.
going on right about now. Huh.
Chair Brusso, we're live.
We're live.
okay. We're live.
Yeah.
Thank you. A
Thank
little
you,
late.
Council
Sorry,
President.
everyone. Thank you. 5:06 p.m., January 4th. And we're going to go ahead and start our Land Use Transportation Committee. I am Chair Russo. We have members Martin Moore, Ong Tran, also Council President Honda, Lydia Sefa-Dawson, and Linda Kochmar, council members on here today with us. So with that, I call the order to, I will call the meeting to order. And any public comment, I believe, Rebecca, we had one, I believe.
We did
Today?
have one public comment from Jeffrey Bray, but I reached out to him several times to ask him to contact me, and he did not, and I don't see him in the attendees. So I don't know if he simply decided not to comment.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Thank you.
Mhm.
For that, then I'll move on to committee business, and we're going to start with item A, approval of minutes December 5th, 2020. So hopefully,
Mr. Chair, I'll
Go
go
ahead.
ahead and make that motion. Thank you. To pass the minutes as they have been submitted from December 5th.
right, motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I need to make a correction. Actually, the minutes was for December 7th, not December 5th.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah,
And I will second that.
Your motion to accept the minutes with and second of revision, approval of minutes for December 7th, not the 5th. Any other discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And minutes passed with revision for December 7th. Thank you. On to item B, transportation grant funding application, we have Jeff Hume. Jeff, are you online?
Yes, I am. Good evening. I'm just gonna put on share screen. It's not so.
Rebecca, can you enable share screen?
One moment. As soon as I figure out how.
Rebecca, it's at the bottom. There's a little screen share and there's a little up arrow next to it. If you click on that and advanced sharing settings and enable all to present.
That should be the case now. Give that a shot. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Peruso, committee members, council members. My name is Jeff Hahn. I'm the capital engineer for the City of Federal Way, and I'm presenting the transportation grant funding application to committee. The policy question is, should the City Council authorize staff to submit the proposed grant applications for transportations project? Staff evaluated eligible national highway system routes against the 2021 NHS Assessed Management Program scoring criteria and determined that South 348 streets from 9th Avenue South to Pacific Highway South would likely to score well. This project will add it to the upcoming 6 years transportation improvements program, update as required for all grant funded projects. An estimated project cost is $1,116,000 with a possible grant fundings of $930,000 and a city matches of $186,000. The options before committees are: 1, authorize staff to submit the proposed grant applications for transportations project. And 2, do not authorize staff to submit the proposed grant applications and provide direction to staff. The mayor recommends forwarding option 1 to January 19, 2021 City Council consent agenda for approval. Staff is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there any questions from any committee members at all? Council members? Okay, I don't see none.
Oh,
Jeff,
actually,
go
I
ahead.
have a question.
Yes.
So
Renata.
the matching funds are to be funded from the 23-24 overlay program funding. Is that correct?
Yes. The matching funds for this project proposed to be funded from the 2023 through 2024 overlay program. Yes. And
Are there
that comprise of real estate excise tax and motor vehicle excise tax. There is no impact to the operations and maintenance of this project, as this is rehabilitations of an existing asset.
all right, thank you. Just wanted to check on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Coachmore, you have a question?
Thank you. I was distracted here a minute ago. Are the funds coming from the sorry, somebody keeps calling me. The funds that we're applying for, the grant funds, are we applying? Are we going through Puget Sound Regional Council? Where are we applying for those? Where are we asking for those funds from? Is it National Highway? But go ahead.
Let me move back to a few screens. There's I don't know if you can see this, but Desiree, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is funded by the PSRC, right?
No, actually, this grant goes directly. It's an application through WashDOT, so not PSRC.
Okay.
Okay, so the question, Desiree, is if it's through WashDOT, it's a state funding, correct? There's no federal funds?
It depends on where they get the money from. So it could be
so the state could be getting it from federal.
Correct.
Yeah.
They get federal funds as well for an NHS system. So they very well and most likely are going to be federal.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be really important for the council as a whole to understand where the money comes from and how we can apply for additional funds. And I do know that there are cities in our state who receive more funds than others. And I'm just trying to get a handle on how to address the funding that I think our city deserves. And so I'm just trying to keep track of that. So thank you very much, Desiree.
You're welcome.
That is true. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to forward option 1 to the January 19, 2021 Council consent agenda for approval.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
First and second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you. Item C, which is the resolution 2020 payment repair project on acceptance. Jeff, you're still with us.
Yes. Let me put up again. Chair Peruso, committee members, council members, prior to release of retainers on a public works construction project, The City Council must accept the work as complete to meet State Department of Revenue, State Department of Labor and Industries requirement. The policy questions is, should the City Council accept the 2020 pavement repair project constructed by Pavement Maintenance of Washington LLC as complete? The 2020 pavement repair project contract with Pavement Maintenance of Washington LLC is complete. The final construction contract amount is $147,296.60. This is $11,837.40 below the $159,134, including contingency budget that was approved by the City Council on April 21st, 2020. The options before committees are: 1, authorize final acceptance of the 2020 pavement repair project constructed by Pavement Maintenance of Washington LLC in the amount of $147,296.60 as complete. Or 2, do not authorize final acceptance of the completed 2020 pavement repair project constructed by Pavement Maintenance of Washington LLC and provide direction to staff. And the mayor recommends for winning option 1 to the January 19, 2021 City Council consent agenda for approval. And staff is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jeff. Councilmember Moore, you have one. Committee Member Moore.
Thank you so much, Chair Brusso. So if I'm not mistaken, the project, the cost is $159,000, $134, and but the project ended up costing $147,296,000. Is that right?
Yes, the original project cost was $159,134, and the permanent construction was $147,296, which is we saved about approximately $11,000. Yes.
Okay, so we had budgeted 150, or no? Okay, so the savings is pretty good, and I wanted you to kind of say those numbers out loud because I'm hoping that we have constituents that are listening, and I think saving money is always a good thing. So that's pretty much my clarification and what I wanted you to kind of say out loud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any, so we'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to forward option 1 to the January 19th, 2021 Council consent agenda for approval.
A motion to second? Seconded. Motion by Councilmember Moore, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Pass unanimously, 3-0. Thank you. We're on to item D. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Item D, Greenway Pavement Markings Phase 1, 2020 project acceptance, and Naveen. I believe is Naveen on?
That's right.
There he is. Hey, Naveen.
Good evening, Chair Baruso.
Share screen. Click on it. Click on it. Share screen.
Good evening, Chair Baruso, members of the council and the committee. For the record, I'm Naveen Chandra, Senior Capital Engineer, Public Works Department, City of Edelweiss. I'm here to present Greenway Pavement Markings Phase 1, 2020 project acceptance. Policy question. Should City Council accept the Greenway Pavement Markings Phase 1 2020 project constructed by Apply A Line LLC as complete? Background. Prior to release of retainage on a public works construction project, the City Council must accept the work as complete to meet the State Department of Revenue, State Department of Labor and Industries, and Employment Security Department requirements. Contract estimated expenditures. Approved budget $118,723, which was approved by the Council on July 21, 2020, including contingency. Final construction amount is $111,475.00. The savings would be $7,248. Options considered. Approve the proposed final acceptance of the Greenway Pavement Markings Phase 1 2020 project constructed by Apply A Line LLC in the amount of $111,475 as complete. Option 2, do not approve proposed final acceptance of the Greenway Pavement Markings Phase 1 2020 project constructed by Apply A Line LLC in the amount of $111,475 as complete and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation. The Mayor recommends forwarding option 1 to the January 19, 2021 City Council consent agenda for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Naveen. Seems like we're saving money now. It's good. Councilmember Moore, you had your hand up. Did you have a question? Okay.
No, but you really read my mind, Mr. Chair, of what you just said, which is we're saving money. I think that really should be made clear, and I think it's a really positive thing for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any, so I will take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to forward option 1 to the January 19, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
There's a motion. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My apologies. And I'll second that. Thank you.
Motion from Councilmember Tran, seconded by Councilmember Moore. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Hearing seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen.
Thank you.
On to item E. Award 2021 Street Sweeping Services Contract. And that's Desiree. I know she's here someplace. Desiree, you have the floor.
Good evening, Chair, committee members, Council President Honda, members of the council. I can share my screen now. All righty. Almost. There we go. Yes, I am here to award the 2021 Street Sweeping Services contract. The policy question is, should City Council award the 2021 Street Sweeping Services contract to the lowest responsible bidder? So some background is that we do street sweeping. It is a best management practice, or BMP, to clean the roads, and it helps enhance surface water quality. This is an ongoing program the city has always contracted out for. We went out to bid. 4 bids were received December 21st, 2020. The low responsible bidder is McDonough & Sons Incorporated. They actually have done street sweeping for us. They have not been the most recent one. I think they were 2 prior to our current contractor, which is Action Services Corporation. The annual amount that they bid on was a little over $119,000. You can see the bids are very close. The available annual budget is $125,000. Again, McDonough & Sons is the lowest responsible bidder. The award we are proposing and they have accepted would be from April 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. So basically 1 year, 9 months. The total budget then would be the balance of 2021 which we wanted to make sure we had a transition, but no interruption of service. We have our current contract in place through March 31st of this year. We do ask for emergency on-call street sweeping. That's estimated at $5,000 a year. So then again, the 2022 annual amount would be the $119,248, again with an annual emergency contract call out of $5,000 for a total contract amount of $223,204, again with the available budget for the 2 years for this contract of $225,000. Options considered is award the 2021 street sweeping services contract to McDonough & Sons Incorporated, the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $223,204.45, and authorize the mayor to execute contracts or reject all the bids for the 2021 street sweeping services contract and provide direction to staff. The mayor recommends award of the contract to McDonough & Sons Incorporated, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Desiree. I had a question. So are these other folks that have ever bid on here that never got it? Do they bid usually? Have they bid before for any of our jobs?
Oh yes, we again, Action Services is our current sweeper right now. Provac, who actually I think purchased out another street sweeping contractor, they have done other services for us, such as vectoring and pipe cleaning, that type of service. So I'm not familiar with the fourth one at all. That's the first time we've seen them bid on a contract.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you. Councilmember Tran, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Desiree. I do have a question. Since the two bids are very close between the Action Services and the other company was less than $200, and if I heard you correctly, Action Services is a company that currently performing this type of work for our city, right?
Correct.
So since it's only less than $200, I wonder why would we want to go with a newer company instead? Why can't we keep the current provider because they are very familiar with the services within the city?
First of all, bid laws require that we do take the lowest responsible bidder. That is just the requirements. Also, McDonough & Sons is actually a contractor that we are very, very comfortable with. They have done our city for probably half of the amount of years that Action Services has also done it as well. So it's just a matter of who comes in. They basically are highly competitive with each other. One year one gets it, the next year the other one gets it. And so truly there's no interruption of service that we are concerned about because both of those two low bidders are very familiar with the city.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Councilor Tran. I think it's a fair one to ask. So McDonough & Sons, it sounds like. So I'm glad to hear that they've worked with us. Are they locally based? Where are they based out of? Is my first question, Desiree.
Oh, they are close. They are closer. I think Ravensdale, if I am correct. So they're and actually Action Services is out of Bremerton. So one of them doesn't have a bridge to cross. I don't know. So that's
okay.
They're, I don't know, probably
interesting,
equidistance apart.
Right. And so we so Action Services, we've had a 2-year contract. It's in the it's run up. And so state law requires that we just go to an RFP, request for proposals, and that's what's come in. That's what I'm understanding, right?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. And just out of curiosity, I see here that there's a scheduling sweep. So obviously it starts April 2nd to December 31st of this year. how often do they go? I mean, how often would people that are driving around see these sweepers, if they're awake? Because I'm alluding to the fact that I've seen them like at 12 o'clock in the morning or whatnot. How does that work? The scheduling part.
They are required to sweep all the arterials and collectors once a month, and they do an extra couple of sweeps in the fall for obvious reasons. And then the residential roads are only done once a quarter. There is one extra sweep in the residentials in the fall. So that is the schedule. Generally, they are allowed to sweep pretty much any time except for the major arterials. They're supposed to stay off of them during peak hours. They don't want to, and generally they don't want to sweep the arterials during peak hours because there's just too much traffic to deal with. And so that's why you probably would see them more often than not on the principal arterials at midnight as opposed to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Great. Okay. And then my last question is, there's a $5,000 for emergency on-call sweeping. So how does that work? Why would that not be part of the regular cost?
That's because it's something that we require them to respond within a few hours. And that would be in the case of, say, an accident that left a lot of debris and glass in the middle of the road. We call them up. They are supposed to be out there within a couple of hours. Or we've had cases where there's been confetti of paper that has been left all over Pack Highway. Again, we call them up and they have to respond. And so it's a different hourly rate because it's not something that they can schedule. So that's how the on-call portion of it works.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Council President Honda, you have a question.
Yes. The difference, ProVac came in pretty high compared to everyone else. Was that a surprise?
Not really. I mean, I think it's a little bit higher than what I would have anticipated, but sometimes contractors will put in what we kind of call a courtesy bid because they really actually don't have the capacity to do the work, but they want you to know that they're still interested. And so they will bid something maybe a lot higher in actually hopes of not getting the contract because, and yeah, in the industry, we call that a courtesy bid. So it's quite a bit higher than I would have anticipated from them, but generally, I don't know, ProVac does come in higher than others usually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sepa Dawson.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Councilmember Russo. I think Martin kind of alluded to my question. It's about around what time, but mine is specific to how do we measure the work that they have done? Is it by number of hours, people served, or streets? And how do we decide which streets they sweep on when? And, those kinds of specific questions. But I'm really looking at measurements here.
That's a lot of questions, but they do provide us a schedule on when they are going to do which streets. So on a kind of day-to-day basis, they will call in the morning and basically say, we have the cities are sectioned off into, say, 5 sections that we call A through DE. And they call in, or 4 sections, A through D, and they call in and say, hey, we're going to be doing the arterials in section A today. That gives us an opportunity to do a little quality control. So that's how it's scheduled. In addition, they are required to schedule areas on specific days of the week where it is not solid waste collection. Because as you can imagine, having a lot of cans out on the street, we're not going to get a whole lot of effective sweeping going on. So they're required to schedule their days based on the solid waste collection dates. So that's kind of a day-to-day scheduling thing. As far as how we measure and pay them, we pay them by the centerline mile. And we basically that they have to sweep all of the street. So it's based just on the center line of it, though. They're required to do both sides as well as all the lanes, as well as the two-way center turn lane. So it may take, on a 5-lane road, it's going to take them 5 passes at minimum to get that road swept. But we're really only paying them down the center line. So they have to kind of account for that within their bid prices that they give us. So then, as an added quality control, all the trucks are required to have GPS units, and they have to send us their mapping of where the trucks have been. So that's another way we ensure that they've actually done all the streets, is we've got mapping that we're delivered every week to show where they've been in the past week. And then the last bit of quality control is we get what's called dump tickets. So they are required to give us their disposal tickets so that we can see how much waste they have disposed and that they have disposed of it properly. So there's street sweeping.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's very helpful. And it makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a really thorough way of doing that, Desiree. Really. Councilmember Tran, you had another question?
No, sorry. I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, thank you. Council President Honda, your hand's still up. Did you have another question?
No, oh, there I go. I just lowered it.
Okay, thank you. All righty, any other questions? It's a great explanation. If not, I'll take a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will move to forward the option 1 to the January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Is there a motion by Councilmember Moore, seconded by Councilmember Tran? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Desiree. Now, item F, and I know I saw Doc on there, so you have the 2021 Planning Commission work plan program. Doc?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, members of the council. Yearly, we bring to the council a proposed Planning Commission work program. And this 4-page memo was sent to you within the packet. It includes the outline of the major activities that we anticipate being brought before the Planning Commission. You'll notice that it's broken into code amendments and plan amendments. And the proposed work program is pretty full this year. Usually, we have, like in number 1 in the code amendments, there's always minor amendments, which is providing basic clarifications that need to be met to be consistent with the rest of the code, something that is not significant. The others are almost secondary to what you'll see in the long range down below. Excuse me a second. I'm sorry, this won't let me go to the next slide. But if you look in your packet, the long range section has a number of things within it. And the largest thing that's going to be up before you is the Housing Action Plan, which is coming before June. And I'm going to go into that program in greater detail so that I can give you a summary of the housing needs assessment within the city of Federal Way. Another item that has to be addressed is the target population. The target population is something that's addressed by King County every 8 years. This was done back in 2015, where a population was actually chosen and agreed to by the county. And it has to be approved by the council and then passed on to the county for their final approval. The reason, the importance of this particular action is it goes to the King County and is the basis upon which we use, or the city uses, for any kind of decisions that are related to roads, comprehensive plans, housing issues, etc. And it anticipates or projects the number of people that we expect by 2040 within the city. Now it's going to be updated again in 8 years or sooner, and that number will also be the basis upon which all decisions are made related to the population. So this is an important piece of work, and I'm in the process, or I'm involved with a number of meetings that are evolve around that. We're also looking at, I think you approved $100,000 for a downtown sub-area plan. And those are the major items that are going to be on the Planning Commission work program for 2021, if this is adopted. And I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Doug. I'm just looking at my sheet. I'm sorry. Just kind of looking down at it before I had anything. Any questions? I see Council President Honda.
Thank you. I'm trying to trying to get the unmute to show up.
Go ahead.
So there's working on the signs. The sign program, update of the sign program, has been an ongoing agenda item on the Commission's work plan for a while. How long can we put that off before we actually have to do it?
We don't have to do it. It's not required to be done. I'll refer any legal questions to council, but it's not required to be done by the state. It's not required to be done by anyone. It's based upon a Supreme Court case on one particular area, and there's jurisdictions that are actually making changes to their sign code. This item is designed to evaluate the City of Federal Way's sign code, but due to the lack of resources, we've done some work on it, but not to the extent that I was hoping we would get to within this period of time. But the lack of resource, lack of personnel has put that kind of on a back burner.
And the Twin Lakes sub-area program?
Similar situation. We got code updates that are going to be necessary. And the housing action plan is huge in terms of what it's going to mean for the city, as well as the target growth. We also have this year, I didn't mention, we have 2 docket items. There's applications for land use changes and 2 applications, and we'll be talking about those in the next couple of months.
I have one more question. When is it anticipated that the consultant will be hired to help with the downtown planning?
I've been told that that's we're looking at between June and beginning of 2022 through the next year, the following year. So it'd be June 2021 to June 2022.
So the person would be hired by June, or not even started the process by June?
I can't answer that question. I haven't been involved in that process.
Okay.
Council President, I can answer that question if you want. So right now we're looking to get the bid ready in time for June so that we can then award. It's not a person that we bring on. It'd probably be a firm that we would be basically a subcontractor for us to do the work. So we're looking at June to get that awarded and then to get the project moving between the second half of this year and the first half of next year.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was hoping it would be much sooner than that. Okay.
Well, the cost of the project was $200,000, and we got $100,000 approved for 1 year. So that's what we had to do, is split it up between years. We're gonna have to go back in 2022 and get another 100,000, which we don't currently have appropriated actually. So we're hoping there will be money next year, but we're moving forward with at least the first half of the project at the end of the second half of this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Coachmore, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair Baruso. Doc or Brian, on your attachment A, page 3, which is not showing on the screen because you couldn't get it to show, but it is in the packet. For comprehensive plan changes for, I'm interested in number 1 and 2 that talk about the researching the housing action plan. And it looks like you want to adopt it by June of 2021. We're not even hiring the planner, it sounds like, until the second half of the year. So part of my concern was, so if we're going to evaluate the increased housing needs for both moderate and low income families by the city's expanding economic base, right now we don't have an expanding economic base. In fact, we have a declining economic base for the city center. But so before we adopt anything, before it just comes to council and we just kind of like lemmings go ahead and say, yes, whatever you say, I would like to have some updates on the housing action plan. And then the second part, Greg, I know I'm not on your committee. I'm just asking as a council member.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
And then you're talking about target growth. I'm sure that, so let's see, that's being allocated. The population projections are being completed by King County. The purpose of target growth is to allocate the population throughout the county. But the thing is if they're going to allocate target growth throughout the county, what they haven't done, in my estimation, in the 23 years I've been involved in this city and the state, I don't see where we get allocated the jobs. The city will participate throughout this process to ensure a fair share of this allocation. The city will have to plan for the allocated population and jobs, which I hope we get some jobs that are being planned for us, because as far as I could see, with the Growth Management Act, we all had to sign on to that GMA, and then all the jobs went to the population centers, which was Seattle, basically, and then we got the housing. So I'd like to get some jobs out this way. So thank you for listening to me, but I would like to have some updates on the housing action plan periodically before we end up adopting it in June.
And I can speak to that, Councilmember Coachmar. So, hold on, mute. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So, yes, that is our intention. We are just beginning we've had an advisory committee going for some time, and we were going to have the we're calling the public engagement process. The council is involved with that, the planning commission. In fact, I think there's another agenda item on your meeting tonight that is going to speak to this. And you are the policymakers, and you provide us direction. We're not acting on our own. So you're providing us the direction on this with the grant that was approved, and we absolutely want to involve you to make sure that we are doing what you want us to do. We know this is an important issue for the council, and we don't want to proceed down a path that is not going to be what you want. So we're fully anticipating a couple of meetings with the council. It can either be a regular meeting or a work session, depending on how we want to proceed. But yes, that is our intention to include you throughout this process.
Okay, thank you. And then my other concern, Chair Baruso, is the fact that we've lost, I believe, 2 people on the planning commission, and this is supposed to be the planning commission work plan. So, I'm just concerned about, getting this done by June when we're still in, going to be in lockdown for a while. So, and that's just my concerns. Thank you.
No, thank you. So Brian, again, and Doc, so ongoing for 2021, if it goes beyond June of 2021, what's their problem with that? If there is one?
There, in terms of the housing action plan you're talking about?
Yes. Or
The
any
housing action
deadlines or
plan,
timelines?
there is a deadline of June 30th to have the housing action plan done. Now, what Brian had indicated, and I would like to reemphasize that this is something that is up to you in terms of what strategies, et cetera. And the question is a good lead in to my next presentation right after Ryan gives his presentation on the agenda, because we want you involved throughout this entire process. We brought it up in terms of the grant amendment and acceptance, that this is going to be done, but at the same time, it's going to be the adoption of strategies based upon housing needs that we're finding. And that's one of the things I'd like to bring up tonight. But whatever housing plan you decide on having can be adopted. Doesn't have to be any particular strategy or any particular item itself in terms of code amendments or anything like that. It just is a housing action plan or objectives and strategies by which the city wishes to move forward to address some of these housing issues. That's why.
Mr. Chairman, could I just provide an additional clarification? Because I think we're talking about two different projects here. The housing action plan, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit, but also there was a concern about the downtown project that we'll be undertaking in June. They're two separate projects, but they are related. The housing action plan is a, as Doc is going to talk about in a few minutes, it's a look at our housing needs. Is what is kind of the sort of the basic explanation that goes beyond just any one location in the city or any particular property. It's housing needs for the city and is part of a larger effort in the region. There are several other cities that got similar grants that we did that addresses just housing needs. That's a project by itself. That's what we're going to be talking about later today. The downtown project is independent from that, from a project management standpoint, and it's going to, as we currently have it planned, take off as soon as this housing needs analysis is done. So first we'll identify what the need is from a citywide basis and regional for that matter. And then once that need is established, that'll provide us numbers that we'll be looking at for the city, housing wise, but also more particularly downtown, which is where a larger concern that the council has. So I just want to clarify those two different projects. They're separate from a project management standpoint, but somewhat related on topic.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I think Councilmember Kochmar, I think there's something I know you want to, it looks like you have a question, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Baruso. My concern is the fact that we're looking at the city as a whole. However, where our growth is going to be is in the downtown. And I can tell you 25 years ago, they came up with this plan to put the growth in the air, thinking that nobody would want to live in a high rise in a downtown in our city. So where is the growth going to go in our neighborhoods? Because, there's single family residential and we're pretty much built out. So a lot of concerning over how much this housing action plan is going to require and how we're going to accommodate that in the city as a whole. But at this year, my primary concern is the downtown. What is our downtown going to look like? And how are we going to accommodate how much growth in our downtown? That's what I'm concerned about, because what I really think that we also need in our downtown, not to mention, housing, we need the jobs. And so, I think that was our plan all along, was to have people being able to live and work without driving long distances. So, and have walkable spaces with, places, little where you could sit and have a little area to have a little coffee shop. Anyway, those kinds of things. So I just am concerned about where we're going with all this, because I don't want to. I mean, we can make an objective and we can say, gee, we're going to have this much. We're going to accept this much housing, but at some point we've got to figure out where we're going to put it. And I know that you're all working on that, but I want to make sure that we have a downtown that we're proud of, that we have a downtown that's a downtown we want to live in. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. And I know that's when you and I have had that conversation too, Councilmember Coachmore, about this whole, everything. I believe that's something that we'll be looking forward to. So I know it's important right now. Any other questions from anyone else? Dr. Brian, do you have any other comments before I go to a motion?
No.
Okay.
I don't, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed 2021 proposed Planning Commission work program to the January 19, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
For a second. Motion on Councilmember Tran, second by Councilmember Moore. Any other discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. I'm sure we have more discussion on this, but this motion passed unanimously. So we're on to item G, and that is Ryan. Thank you, Doc. We're going to talk to you again later. So Ryan, you have the progress update on sound transit activities.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members, Council President, and Council members. My name is Ryan Medlin. I'm the City Liaison to Sound Transit, here to provide the monthly update on sound transit activities. Starting with Federal Way Link Extension, December was a pretty quiet month on account of the holidays and winter weather. Signs of activity you will see is work towards an aerial guideway across 272nd. This will include construction of a column on both the north and south side of 272nd. The actual roadway of 272nd and the north side are City of Kent, and the south column will actually be City of Kent when the project is done. But currently it is in City of Federal Way. One thing I did want to mention, because a question came up previously on coordination with Mark Twain Elementary, is that there's some restoration work of the actual play field that currently the plan is to have that occur over summer vacation. Other work around Mark Twain will be scheduled in coordination with Federal Way Public Schools. Clearing and grading work along the corridor expected to continue at a slower winter pace, but pick up towards the end of this month, probably rolling into the late winter months and then into spring. Currently, I don't have any new areas of clearing known to be scheduled at this time. And I also wanted to mention that what we'll see later this year, in all likelihood, is that the next phase of work contemplated in the city center area is column construction. It'd be for that same aerial guideway structure. So again, it's not on the schedule at this time, but I just wanted to flag it as sort of the next phase of work. We'll see in city center. Smaller activity we'd continue to see is utility relocations in coordination with Lake Haven and other purveyors. As far as Tacoma Dome Link and OMF South, there was no change in December since our last meeting or since the November 17th special session. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. I see a question from Council President Honda.
Ryan, is there an update on the public art discussion for the train station?
So the public art discussion is that they have to continue to work on foundation, but he's basic as far as the art itself is he's going to back to the drawing board. And they basically have let me know that they don't expect to come back with a new proposal until towards the end of this year. I guess it would be. It was next year when I had the discussion, but I guess it's the end of this year now.
Will that will the city council have any input in that, or will it be the way it was done before?
In the email that was sent to me, there was an intent to come back to the council directly from Mr. Lipsky. I don't have any proposed schedule or events to let you know of, but the intent, as I took it, was to come speak to you guys. Yes.
Okay, that would be awesome. And gosh, maybe a couple years ago, we saw some drawings of what downtown would look like with the train station and the new garage. And I know that wasn't the final drawing. Is that done? Is the final design done? And will we see it?
The final design is not done, to answer your question. There will be some updated outreach coming out soon about what the refined concept looks like. So they haven't put that on the calendar either, but I think it's actually, they want to do it as early as towards the end of this month, as some Sound Transit wants to do some public outreach, basically going out similar to how they did about a year ago now, the last time they had an in-person open house at the PAC. Obviously, they can't do the same in-person style open house again, but they want to do an online open house.
Oh, okay. And then do they come to the council? Do we have any, do we need to approve it, or do we have any say in that as a council?
There will be additional council actions, yes.
So if we didn't like something, is it possible that it would be changed, or is it just that they want our stamp of approval?
I would want to have something tangible to have that discussion about, because certain things have already been approved, like the alignment of everything in the original development agreements, already approved. So like the alignment set, the station locations essentially affirmed in that development agreement exhibits. It would depend. Do you have a particular specific item in mind?
No, I
before you do
haven't seen any.
Council President Holland, could you put your mic down?
Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I haven't seen anything, for a while, so I was just curious. In the beginning, I was a little concerned with how many surplus lots there might be.
Mm-hmm.
Either 2 or 3 was what I believe we were told, and what those might be used for, and also the parking for the buses. I had some concerns about that.
So the surplus property, the parcels you're referring to, that process is very much in its early stages. So I don't have much to add on that one at this time, because we're still talking to Sound Transit simply at the level of how do we work together with essentially you as a property owner, us as the city. So we're still at that kind of staff level of what are we comfortable committing to as staff. So there will be more to come as far as the updates on that goes with you guys. I mean, obviously it's their property, so they have rights that come with that, but I'm intent on kind of bringing you more information once more is known to even myself. Right now, we just received we've only had 2 meetings on it so far at the staff level. And we just got James, the new senior planner, on with community development, who may or may not be taking kind of the lead role on that part as well. So it's just getting going for the TOD parcels. The bus layover parking, that's there will be an update on that in the near future.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think too, where Council President Honda is going also, there's some folks around there that would like to see, I haven't seen a plan either since I went back, and when I got briefed, and it was back in April. and they had some preliminary plans on what they would look like, entrance and things like that, Ryan. So if that's something too that I know that's going to be in there, but maybe sooner than later too, that'd be kind of nice too. So we can kind of get it out to our business owners and other folks around there, so they can kind of see what it might look like or will look like. So anyway, I think that's what we're kind of going with that one too. Thank you. Councilmember Seven Dawson.
Thank you. As the follow-up to Council President Honda's question around with the arch, is it going to cost more money now that we're going back to the drawing?
Won't cost the city any more money. I don't know about Sound Transit.
Sound Transit, okay.
The artwork's funded by them, and I know they have their set budget that they stay within. So whether it's eating up some of their buffer or incidental money, I don't know that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Honda,
go ahead.
Can I just jump in for 1 second?
Yes, go ahead, EJ.
Just to clarify a little bit of the conversation, the Sound Transit project, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but it falls in that mega project category, and they're working across 4 different cities, and obviously with the airport and several other agencies as well. So I think all of us are used to city projects that move at a pretty brisk pace, and unfortunately with the size and scale of this project, that's not really the case here. They're trying to plan multiple stations across different cities. So I think all of us would like to see documents at a more shorter interval, I guess I'll say. But with them working on multiple stations at the same time, we're obviously pushing them, but I do want to be clear to council that, this is kind of a normal paced process for a project of this scale. So I get there's certainly some desire of council to see stuff more readily, but there are more frequently. But there's really, the drawings haven't changed since the last time you saw them. So they have the development agreement that approved everything in concept. So what's going to come back to council ultimately is really tweaks to that. It's, we're going to move 2 bus spots from here to there, shifting that parking garage that council's already been briefed on, that level of thing, not necessarily a full-blown redesign. So the TOD is an excellent point, Council President, and that process is basically just starting, but that doesn't really hit the ground running until 2024 once basically Sound Transit's got the station. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but I just want to make sure council has all the information there that we have too.
Thank you, EJ. Councilmember Joseph Dawson, you still have your hand up. Do you have another question for Ryan?
Oh, no, okay. I messed up. Sorry.
Thank you. Hands down. Any other questions for Ryan? Alrighty. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Doc, we're back to you. Item H on the housing needs assessment.
Thank you. Members of the council and the committee, as was let in with a question. You were presented with about 46 to 50 pages of a housing needs assessment that was done and conducted by 2 different consultants. What I intend to do is just to summarize this and answer any questions you might have regarding this packet. Again, this is an introduction to this whole plan process so that you can understand what the needs are within the city, and we can go from that particular point. So on day 1 of 2021, we're moving towards 6 months towards moving towards a plan. Now, if you'll recall, again, we applied for and accepted the HB 1923 grant for $100,000. $20,000 of that went to Eco Northwest, who did a sub-regional analysis, and 80,000 came to the city to do housing needs assessment within the city. The housing needs assessment is going to be a very key part of the development of the plan, because any kind of strategies that are adopted within the plan will be based upon housing needs and how you make those findings towards meeting those needs. The end of this month, Planning Commission is going to review what the consultants have found in terms of gaps within the city's code that might actually impede housing development, and what could be done to change those. From that and the housing needs assessment, be developing strategies to address those needs, which will be coming before you in the housing action plan. And finally, there's the adoption of the housing plan before June 30th. I'll give you an outline of that timeline shortly. I'd like to give you an background in terms of the income within King County. In King County, which is the area median income, the area is considered the King County metropolitan area, of which Federal Way is part of. The median income represents it's $113,300 last measured in 2020. That means 50% of all the people within King County or the area make less than $113,000, and 50% make more than $113,000. This area median income figure is going to be very important in terms of what types of strategies we're looking for, what types of jobs are going to be coming in, and what kinds of services are going to be necessary. This gives you an idea of what those breakouts are. We're looking at 50 to 80% of the area median income. It's $95,000, over $95,000. Now, we did an evaluation of the sub area, and that's South King County, which is over 500,000 people. And it included Renton, Tukwila, Burien, Kent, and Auburn, and the city of Federal Way. This graph right here is something that will give you some idea of what we're looking at in terms of salaries of different professions, and what types of income are going to be necessary to meet these particular area median incomes to get housing. In this, you'll notice that this was calculated in 2015. We put a consumer price index to raise this. Our consultant did that to analyze what these salaries would be based upon this area median income. So, for example, we're looking at a school teacher who makes approximately $66,000 per year. You can take that figure and see down here where that number fits. So for $66,000, a school teacher who is living by himself, herself, would be right at the 80% mark. For a 50 to 80%, then they would be considered low income. We've also got other professions that are noted here. A beginning architect is going to be making $80,000, which is right at the median if he or she is supporting themselves, but could be further down if they're supporting more. The subregion population needs analysis was completed, as I said before, by Eco Northwest. It was determined that the population will increase by 83,000 people, which is 15% higher than it is now. Given the various data and assumptions, we're looking at more than 63,000 housing units are going to have to be built in the next 20 years in order to house all of them. 13% of this growth need is expected from within Federal Way. city is expected to have a population projection of over 106,000 people, which is over 8,100 people. And 66, almost 6,800 housing units are going to have to be built by 2040 in order to house these people and also the people that are not adequately housed at this particular time. This slide shows you the relationship of Federal Way's median income in relation to the South King County sub area that was evaluated. We wanted to put these median household incomes so that you had an idea of how these median incomes relate to the median incomes in the Northern King County area or the northern area. And you'll notice that they're quite a bit higher, which means that when you're dealing with very low housing or housing for low income families, they're going to be moving in areas that have housing that costs less. And we made a number of findings in this, and Federal Way's level of production is lower than South King County subregion and the city at the current production. In 2011 through 2019, Federal Way produced about 5.3 housing units for every 10 new households needed. That's on page 4 of one of the Federal Way report by Eco Northwest. And this is the lowest level of production of any city in the South King County area. So the whole South King County sub area produces just about 7 for every needed 10 units. We also had a significant finding in terms of the housing costs increasing much higher than the increase in the median income. You'll notice the solid blue line shows the housing prices between 2010 and 2020. The gold line shows the incomes. The incomes arose just over 20%, and the home value increased just below 60. In another evaluation, we're looking at the increase in housing throughout the area is increasing by 2 times as quickly as the incomes. This points to a cost burden for the housing. Those that are cost burden pay more than 30% of their income on housing, and those that are what's categorized as severely cost burden are those paying more than 50% of their income in Federal Way. Over 40% of the city's population is cost burden. And over 50% of the Federal Way renter households are severely cost burdened, or they spend over 50% of their income on housing. We were looking at the overall housing need of South King County compared to the overall need with Federal Way. The sub-area must increase from its current construction of 2,100, about 2,150 units per year, to 3,155 units per year to meet the housing need. The Federal Way needs a 69% increase in the production in order to meet the 2040 needs. That equals approximately 339 units per year. We're currently producing about 200 units per year. Excuse me. This breaks down the housing need by various income groups. So your extremely low income AMI units comprise 14%, and all of these income breakouts breakdowns are broken out by percentage. Households earning less than 80% will make up, as you can see, 57% of the total housing need in Federal Way. and 69% are making less than 100% for the AMI. Got 31% of it within the 100 plus. I'd like to mention that the evaluation that was made by the consultants of the 100 plus is between 100 and 120. Somebody was asking a question about evaluating these for housing needs for very, very rich people. We were evaluating housing needs for those that are making between $100 and $120,000 in annual salary. We also made a finding in evaluating the vacant lands, developed lands. That's ongoing, and we don't have enough residentially zoned land available for new construction. And we come to a conclusion that some of this housing is going to have to occur within the commercially zoned lands. Right now, there's approximately 409 acres of vacant land in residentially zoned areas. That's single family residential and multiple family residential areas. And this, based upon zoning densities, if we went to full capacity, would allow for an additional 1,973 units, or almost 2,000 units on residentially zoned lands. There's also what's classified as redevelopable land, or lands that are not currently at the density permitted. These include lands that may be zoned RS72, but they have 11,000 square foot lot, which means that if there were two of these lots that not necessarily were subdivided, but were divided earlier than in the 70s, that they might combine and actually create a third lot. So all of this area was allocated or determined on the basis of whether it was it was developed to its maximum extent. If you did that and calculated all the redevelopable lands, you could get an additional 1,910 units. That equals totally about 38, almost 3,900 units. But the building to full density isn't really realistic. You look at some of the lots that are in Western Federal Way, you'll have larger lots that are that have lower zones, or lots that are zoned RS15 that have 25,000 square feet. They're on the coast, or they're in a particular area where they're not going to be redeveloped. There's a large number of land within the city that is subdivided. It's zoned RS72, and it's not. There's a lot of it that's already developed upon that is not going to be redeveloped. But even if you calculated at the maximum density, you see that there's not enough residentially zoned land to meet the current future needs. Again, we need 6,800 units. That means about 2,900 units would have to go into commercially zoned lands. This points to the need to analyze future housing in the downtown area. Need to seriously look at strategies that will encourage numbers of housing units, like identifying areas for infill, zoning for higher density in the housing production, and amending regulations to incentivize housing production. Those are a few of the strategies that are actually being examined and will be examined in greater detail. So the overall summary of this is that the housing production is not kept up with the population. Most needed housing for a family of four is the income group making 50 to 80%, which is about 25% of the needed housing. 57% projected housing need is for households making less than 80%. Housing cost significantly exceeds the increase in median income, and this is expected to continue, which makes it very difficult for renters and owners to get into their house. Those earning below 50% are severely cost burdened for renters. and homeowners. So we were surprised at the number of homeowners that are severely cost burdened. And it still requires the production from that. It requires the production of 2,239 units by 2040 just to serve the severely cost burdened residents. Almost half of the future housing will have to be developed in commercially zoned lands in order to meet the future housing needs. So that is a very, very brief summary of all of the paper that was given to you. And again, the purpose of this is not so that you would know everything about this, but so that you can get a general idea and a basis upon the direction that you're going in the development of the plan. Again, the next thing we're doing is looking at the regulations in terms of what kinds of things may be impeding this type of production. And then we're also going to examine all types of strategy options that could be brought before you so that you would have a plan that you could discuss. We're looking at around April. Matter of fact, here's a very brief schedule that we're looking at. There's a public survey that's being finished right now that's going to go out to the public in terms of analyzing their type of design needs, the types of things that they would like to have within the city. There's, as I mentioned, there's going to be a presentation to the PC on what we call regulation gaps, or things that may need to be changed, which again would have to come through you in order to be changed. There's Brian had mentioned an advisory committee that has been looking at this and looking at the housing action plan. We'd actually established the advisory committee, and at the beginning of the fall, we've had 3 meetings. The final meeting is going to be on February 18th to discuss and describe a lot of the things that we're describing to you right now. It's an open public meeting on February 17th to receive public input. The Planning Commission hearing is scheduled for 4/21. Right now, we have every Planning Commission meeting scheduled between now and that hearing date to have some housing action plan discussions, so that the Planning Commission is very well aware of what's being brought before them before they take any action or before they have a hearing. Right now, it's planned to be brought to you, the draft in May. And the reason we were suggesting that this be done, the reason I wanted to do this, was so that you had a month before the council was even considering it, so that it could be discussed within council, at least for 1, if not 2 meetings prior to the first reading of the council scheduled for June 1st. With that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Doc. I had a question. With any considerations with the because of COVID and the cost of building supplies, was that, I don't remember, is that will that be taken any consideration for this at all, or? Because I know that lumber prices have gone up about 210% lately, so I'm just kind of wondering.
COVID hasn't been taken into account here. A lot of this, and this has actually been a question that I brought up in several of the task force meetings. When you're in the planning field, you're basing a lot of your plans on past trends. And one of the things I would like to have in comprehensive plans from this point forward, however, I mean, not within the city, but generally, is looking at some of these things that we may be dealing with. I think pandemics, which will come again, I think pandemics can have some impact upon housing, and those types of strategies can be looked at.
I agree. Thank you, Doc.
But it wasn't considered within this housing needs assessment. It's based upon future trends of what's going to be needed based upon populations that we anticipate within the area.
All right. Thank you. Questions? I have a question from Council President Honda.
Thank you. So when we look at the area median income, which is based out of the Seattle area, and we come all the way down to South King County, almost into Pierce County, which is where we are in Federal Way, it doesn't even relate to us. And this has always bothered me. I wish King County could separate out these numbers based on like South King County or North, or it's unrealistic for Federal Way and all of South King County. These numbers are. Is there any way that could happen in the future?
This gets to the basis of our grant. One of the things that we wanted to do was to evaluate South King County in relation to North King County. And the reason for that is, in the past, whenever you go to an area-wide conference, you've got a North King County. And then you've had representatives from each of the cities. And each of the cities are very, very small and less powerful than an entire region. That's why you have an East County sub-area region, which includes Bellevue and Kirkland, and they've got a lot of money. Now, the reason we were looking at evaluating this for South King County is that South King County holds over 500,000 people, which is larger. The only area that's larger is actually within Seattle. And if there was if these types of numbers were coming from that type of a group, it would have more of an impact, I believe, on the county council. I could be wrong, but that's something that I've witnessed in the past. But before you could actually get to that level, you'd have to have these kinds of numbers that you're looking at that we sent out that shows what the entire sub area is. And within that sub area, all of the cities are going to be able to compare themselves with the others. We have all of that information now. That's what was conducted. That's what we sought within the last 5 months. So we've been doing this for about 5 months to come up with the 46-page packet that you have that was sent to you. So shortly, in short, I particularly was looking at and talking to other planners of having a South King County region so that we could bring up that type of an issue. Councilmember Honda.
That would be awesome if we could, because it's just, King County is so large and it's so different. All of the sub-regions are so different. And we need to be proud of who we are, but we need to know who we are and be realistic of our expectations here in South King County.
Again, I would like to emphasize that was the purpose of these numbers. It's going to be up to each of the councils of these jurisdictions to act as a sub area so that they're speaking there. But that's the purpose of all of these numbers. That was the purpose of the planners getting together. That was the purpose of actually taking $20,000 out of our grant so that we could hire a special consultant to deal with the entire sub-region, to provide you as the decision makers and the decision makers of the other jurisdictions to be able to discuss that.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question. When we talk of housing, one of the things I hear from our citizens is the request for condos, not apartments, not multifamily apartment rental units, but condos, so that people who might not be able to get that first house as a single family home might be able to get into a condo, or senior citizens trying to downsize from their big family home can get into a nicer condo that, because they still want to own, they don't want to rent. We just have a lack of condos in Federal Way. Is there anything we can do to incentivize builders to come to Federal Way to build condos?
Well, I'll mention a couple of things. First of all, condos have not been on the rise simply because of the liability issues that have been brought across by legislative matters. Now, that could change. As a matter of fact, I've seen that discussion happening within the state legislature. Where it goes from here, I don't know. But I know that that's being discussed. And it's being discussed seriously for the same reasons that you're talking about. However, there's a lot of condos that are much more expensive than some of your single family homes, depending upon where they are and how they're actually developed. There's a lot of people that are aging, that are younger Aztecs. They want condos, but they're more expensive. A lot of them are more expensive because of the construction, the means of construction. Now, saying that, there are all types of houses and housing that can actually provide the needs that you're talking about. There's different types of designs. Right now, I can point to one code gap that we're going to bring to your attention, so I won't skip it. Right now, the code allows only for single-family houses in single-family zones. A lot of jurisdictions, they'll allow for duplexes. Now, within our design standards and triplexes, in our design standards, the city hasn't really addressed the designs of something like a duplex or a triplex. And it could have a number of characteristics on it that are very, very compatible with a single family neighborhood or single family area. And that's one of the things that we would like to do, not only to bring up to you, but also to bring up to members of the public so that they can give you information in terms of what types of design standards you would like to have. That would allow you to look at other options within housing that would allow for these types of houses that the younger people can actually get into, or somebody my age who will be retiring and wants to downsize, go into a smaller unit. Those are the things that we would like to look at. Condos is one of them. Cottage housing is going on the up, and they're very, very compatible with single family housing. They're happening in a lot of places, and I remember the end of the summer where I had actually gotten some phone calls regarding possibility of cottage housing within the city of Federal Way. So there are a number of options that can be explored. We intend to explore and present to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you, Chair Baruso. Doc, you had fabulous information. Thank you. Would you put up your page again, because it's not in the attachment, that shows the comparison between the north and east with the South County area? You know, Bellevue, Redmond, and then South County area income.
From the slideshow that you saw?
Yeah. Can you put that up again? Can you find it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you. So, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably it. The thing is that's what GMA did to us. They took all the money, put it up north and to the east, and when they got the money from the federal government, the roads went there to Bellevue, Redmond, because guess what? Guess who had jobs there? Microsoft, Google's in Seattle. So, that's my point. We're getting all the low-income housing our folks down here have to travel long ways to go to work, and we're not getting the jobs. And so I think that should be one of our focuses. So I appreciate you putting that up, and I really believe that we should gather together as a South King County region, just like they did East King County area, to address their issues. Well, heck darn, it's about time we got smart. But, you know, Doc, thank you for bringing up about duplexes, fourplexes, and triplexes. I had no idea until you just said that right now that we were only zoned single-family housing in the residential area. I had no idea that was in the comprehensive plan. I always wondered why we weren't getting any duplexes or triplexes or fourplexes. Holy cow. So I would like to look, when we do our strategy options in April, there are some things I'd like to discuss. One of which is, I know that our East Side area has said, you know, our PAA has said that they did not want to annex overall, but that was quite a while ago. And I do know that at that time, there were people east of the freeway that had 8 acres that would look at zoning. However, our sewers are not extended to that area. And so perhaps there's some way we could partner with Lake Haven to get the federal money for them to extend sewers so that we can talk about development to the east side, not just keep putting it in our commercial area. The other thing, I mean, I think we just need to spread this out over our entire population area, which is more than Federal Way. It's actually also the east side. And I would like to look at detached dwelling units when we talk about our strategy options. Now, on our large lots that are to the west, you know, the cottage housing was a great idea. We only have 2, maybe there's 2, just one maybe.
There's just one right now.
Yeah, just one right now. I know that we had another plan that had been submitted over by Still Lake, but I don't think that went anywhere. And you're right on senior housing. Our seniors are moving out of Federal Way, and a lot of our seniors actually have money to spend. But all we're getting is, I don't want to live in assisted living. My goodness, even after COVID, I have no desire to ever go to assisted living, but I would like to live in a nice area like we have up in Auburn, up at the top of the hill in Auburn, Lakeland Hills. They have beautiful fourplexes where you can go up, and it's a protected area, and they have a beautiful grocery store to go to, and it's a walking area with sidewalks. And I had always hoped that Weyerhaeuser would be part of something like that. At any rate, we really need to just look at our housing, not just put everything in the commercial area, because it's easy to do that, but to look at the entire city as a whole. And I know that we don't have a lot of money to do that with it, because we're not going to update the comprehensive plan for another year. But just to provide some different options so that we're not saying, oh gosh, we need 2,900 units, and we're going to put them all in the downtown because that's vacant and we can go up. And then we're going to have a mismatch, and we're not going to have the jobs we need. And so I just need to have an overall of our comp plan, because if I'm a developer and I'm coming in, the first thing I'm going to get is the description of what I can build in this city. And guess what? You know what else, Doc? A funny thing, with this pandemic, more people are going to be able to work anywhere they want now, because a lot of the tech companies are going to allow people to work from home. And so we have we actually have values out here that are reasonable, and people might want to have their children where they could play at Celebration Park and go join a soccer team, which they can't if they're stuck in an apartment in downtown Seattle. So, you know, as those tech families grow, their children are going to need places to play. So I think, you know, that's probably one of the best ideas here, is to get a South County sub-area going. And as far as condos and insurance, I do know that before I left the legislature, and I believe they discussed it since the insurance, and I think they've solved that problem. I'm not sure if they passed it through yet, but I know the master builders were very interested in getting that problem resolved so that we could have condos. And so, you know, the county has put in a big apartment complex right across our boundary on Military Road. Now they're going to be using our roads. They're going to be coming across our crowded overpass to get to grocery stores to shop. But we don't have any control over that. We need to start talking about the east side and to figure out what we can do to start, not the whole thing, but pieces that want to annex in. Anyway, so thank you, Doc. Lots of things there when we talk about strategy options in April, about how we can change our town to make it. We should have a vision of our town to make it so that it's a town that's lovely, that's a town that's elegant, a town that we want to live in, and that we're proud to have good jobs where our people can live and our children can play in the parks. That was always our vision in the beginning, and I hope that we can keep working on that incrementally. But maybe we need to do that in association with our South County area park. And I see that Fife is in Pierce County, but I don't see Des Moines in here, and I think Des Moines would also be a big part of our South County area, because Des Moines controls one of our treatment plants is actually within the city of Des Moines. And that's going to be a big factor for us as we develop and grow. We have 2 treatment plants within our city limits. Well, actually one now, Lakota, and the other is Redondo, but Redondo is Des Moines. So we need to have Des Moines included in all this. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for listening to me. Good job, Doc.
Thank you.
You guys are Coach Word. I don't know if that makes a difference either, though, Doc. But CTAC's not in there either. If that's anything, but they are separate.
If I could, I'll address that. We went to CTAC and also Des Moines when we filed for this grant. They didn't want to participate. That doesn't mean they can't be part of this sub area if all the sub areas agree to become this South King County. Now, there is a South King County Housing and Homeless agency that do have these cities within the South King County area. So there is a South King County effort related to housing. This is something that is designed so that all of these cities that are on here that decided to participate in this program can be working with strategies. Actually, I have a meeting with them tomorrow where we're talking about strategies and certain things that they're thinking about so that we can all share this as we're going through this. These are the 6 towns or 6 cities that actually participated in this effort. Doesn't mean that the rest of it is not participating in some effort. We're trying to coordinate all of these things, but this particular effort was done just for the Housing Action Plan.
Thank you, Doc. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Doc. On your earlier slideshow, there was a slide that showed, I believe, Federal Way is going to gain about 8,000 residents, and then we need about 67 housing units to house those people. So that means that the ratio almost 1 to 1.
Right.
That seems pretty high. Can you explain that?
Yes, it ties back into the amount of production that has happened within Federal Way based upon the housing need. So what I mentioned before was that 5.3 housing units were produced between 2010 and 2018. 5.3 units were produced for every 10 households needed or housing units needed. So Federal Way has been underproducing for almost a decade. What that means is to catch up so that all of these are housed, to provide for that housing needed, the city is going to have to provide enough housing for the new population as well as the non-served population at right now. So that's how that number came up to that level. So it's not a 1-to-1. It's those that aren't housed right now, or the production as low as it was, means our production has to go up that much faster.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Kochmar, you are on fire, and I like it. Sir has a lot of passion, and what I appreciate about that is the fact that there's knowledge and history from the past, and so I really find a lot of value in that, and I wholeheartedly agree that we've really got to really address a number of things. At the end of the day, I think my comments that I would just want to add to this, Mr. Chair, is the fact that we just need balance on all perspectives. And I think Doc does a lot of good data and really good information in this. This couldn't be any clearer. With the incomes that are coming into the median income that's coming into people's households is just doesn't create. There's just a lot of information, really, and I think we've got to really create jobs, which I completely agree, Councilmember Kochmar. I think that is the way to prosperity. That is the way to good housing. And I think one of them that I want to kind of spin before I lose my train of thought is senior housing. And I've heard that come up a couple of times. And I really want to kind of share this in that, this past year, I've been talking to a lot of people, different constituencies. And one of my takeaways is more and more seniors and people of wisdom of age, they don't want to go into facilities, as Councilmember Kochmar indicated. And a lot of them are very much wanting to stay in a home. I've heard experts in this field say the exact same thing. One of those experts works right here in Federal Way, Mr. Rajiv Nagayaj. He talks about this all the time. And I think there's just a lot of value in that. For example, my parents, they moved back into Federal Way from Arizona. And, with my dad, fighting against Parkinson's and dementia-like behaviors, my mom doesn't want to put him up in a facility. They want to stay in a home where they can continue to have that quality care. And so one of the things I want to add to that discussion is, in addition to condos or whatever, is we really need to have more options for Rambler housing of one stories. And so that I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that can be part of the conversation as well. But I think that is absolutely really important. And I think, again, having a balanced housing plan that is holistic, I think is really important. And the fact that we've got a lot of work to do is just makes things interesting, if I can say that. So those are really just the some of the items I just kind of wanted to share. But Doc, I really appreciate this report, and I think I'm hoping we can maybe put this on a website somewhere so it's readily accessible to the public, because I think it's just a really good information. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this could, just looking at this is speaking for probably everyone. This is going to be a lot more discussion. There's a lot of things to bring up. A lot of infrastructure has to be done, like Councilmember Kochmar says, whether it be when you talk about septics and sewer lines and things like that, electricity to lots other or designated wetlands that aren't buildable. That all comes into play with a lot of things. So I appreciate it, Doc, and everyone. Councilmember Tran, you had your hand up. Did you have another question?
I'm sorry. I think you should start collecting money for your soda, like the mayor is doing.
I'm going by. What is our first meeting? So I'm, maybe next one. That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a quick comment?
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
So I know this is a lot of data that we're throwing at you tonight, and if at any point the committee or the full council wants us to do additional presentations, we're more than happy to do that. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed by everything that's presented tonight. This is an important issue. So at your request, we can do more presentations or any other materials that you need to feel informed on this issue. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you. No, I don't know if I'm speaking out, but I would like to see some, of course. This is something that I think that's been on the plate, like Councilmember Koshmar is saying, the comprehensive land use plan and things that have come up. It would be nice to be able to get some updates and figure out where we are and where we're going with this and things like that. So I would appreciate one, if possible.
Chair,
Yes.
could I, Brian, are you talking about a study session?
Sorry, my button wasn't working.
Sorry.
Yes, we could do whatever format the council would like. We're more than happy to do a study session or a regular agenda item, whatever you'd like.
If that's what council wants, we can talk about it at agenda setting to try to see if there's a time available to do a study session.
Okay. Council President, I'm probably gonna turn that and let you.
Okay. I see some heads nodding, so.
Yep, I do too.
Okay. All right.
So,
thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions for Doc? Thank you, Doc. Great presentation. I know we're going to have more questions, so thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
If I may just add, and thank you so much. I'm just kind of thinking about this too, and that's at some point, I think it'd be good to have a community discussion on this to garner better understanding and knowledge. And I think I know there's a lot of this topic always tends to kind of get people revved up and excited, and I think all perspectives are good on this. But I think having an open community dialogue at some point when it comes to housing, I think that would be a value to that.
Agree. Thank you. Alrighty. Go
Chair?
ahead. Yes.
On the calendar that Doc showed us, isn't there a public meeting?
I thought there was one too.
At some point? I thought that there was.
There's a public meeting scheduled right now for February 17th, yes.
Okay.
That's an open house. We can evaluate that as well. Online, like I said, what we're trying to do is get a survey. Unfortunately, what we found in the past, and I've noted a lot of times, sometimes people don't get access to these.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we're making it known that it is available, and we will get calls, or you can be talking to your constituents about looking at the line online at the website, because we have that big icon on the home page, and we're going to continue to add information as we get it.
We can put it on our Facebook page. I'll talk to Jerry Lynn.
Yeah, not all the information is on there yet, but it will be continually added.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Seferdowson, you had something. Did you put your hand down?
You're muted.
So sorry about that. Just wanted to ask if those meetings that are scheduled, that are planned, could be put on our calendars so that we can attend as we're available.
I can send you that invitation. You'll have to be aware of the, well, Eric can bring that up. To make sure at any of these meetings you don't have a quorum.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd have to advertise that as a council meeting.
Thank you, Doc. Thanks for the reminder. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? I don't see any. Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. Okay, we're down to item I, our last one, and I know this is for information only. I'm going to turn this over to Councilmember Moore, who's been kind of been advocating for this, so I'm going to let him do the intro here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I am fairly excited. I wanted to begin conversation of what is a community workforce agreement. And I wanted to kind of start that dialogue at the council meeting, council committee meeting, for the committee members and council members, and for the public that may be watching. And so I've invited my friend, well, new friend, hopefully we're friends, Ms. Anna Pavlik, who is the manager with the city of Seattle, and Ms. Or I should say, Nancy Locke, who is a consultant, and if I'm not mistaken, is also with the Seattle School District, to kind of bring knowledge and education of what community workforce agreement is. For me, I'm really excited, and because I think this is a really positive thing for our community, and so with that, without going into anything further, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Anna, and I'll give the floor to you. Anna, thank you.
Great, thank you. Nancy Locke will be kicking us off, and I see that Nancy Locke was just added as a panelist. Hi there, Nancy. So I'll let you get started unless you want me to share the presentation, Nancy.
Let me pull it up, but I'll first introduce myself and then I'll pull the PowerPoint up. First of all, thank you to the committee chair, to all the council members and committee members. We appreciate the chance to talk to you about community workforce agreements. And they sound very legal and complicated, but they're actually a pretty straightforward tool. And I think you will find them find it a very interesting discussion relative to your interest in how to bring jobs into federal way. I heard a number of comments about that. I think you might find this a very compelling tool for your city to take a look at. So with that, I will hopefully share my screen. Let's see if I'm sharing. Am I sharing yet?
Not yet.
Go. Your screen.
Now you are, Nancy.
Thank you. Okay. So I will start, and then Anna Pavlik, who is a very experienced and compelling leader in our region on these kinds of programs, will also finish off with the last component of this. I am from, worked for the state of Washington, worked for a number of years with the city of Seattle. I had the opportunity to negotiate 2 of these for the city of Seattle, and most recently negotiated, and I'm implementing through Seattle Public Schools a CWA for the school district. So I will talk a little bit about adopting a CWA, what the process is you go through, what these things are, and Anna will share some of the successes and some of the ways in which these things are managed and implemented inside your program. Basically, a community workforce agreement is about your construction jobs, your construction projects that you in federal way pay for and have done for your own facilities, for your own utilities. It's an agreement between you as the owner, as federal way, and with the building trade unions for the projects that you designate to be encompassed by this agreement. The agreement is basically like a contract, and it requires your contractors, who you select through your normal procurement processes, to hire their workers from a union dispatch hall, giving some space for each of those contractors to bring a certain agreed upon number of their own workers, usually 3, but otherwise bringing the workers from the union dispatch hall to come and work on your projects. In return, what you get for using and committing to using a union workforce is that you in turn can require the union through this agreement to train and deploy workers, whether they're local workers or diversity workers, the workers that are your priority, that are the demographics that you ask of those unions to dispatch for you. You get, in addition, some basic business benefits that just come with an agreement like this. They come with a no strike, no lockout provision. Maybe that doesn't sound compelling, although in this region, we have had strikes and lockouts in our region, where having this agreement in place helped at least us prevent that impairing the progress on our construction projects, because these workers continued to come and do their work. It's an increased efficiency on your job sites. It does some dispute, it has dispute resolution provisions. And again, it has this really compelling element where you and these unions can create inside the agreement requirements around hiring of your local workers. In addition to those community opportunities with Seattle Public Schools, we also explored, and I think it's probably one of the first in our region, to look at how we can also incorporate supporting students who have either graduated out or didn't graduate out of the local high schools and are looking for a high wage, successful career that allows them to stay in the community, invest in the community, and have a successful career. So an example of the kinds of priorities that you can identify and then negotiate inside one of these agreements are those listed. You see them on the PowerPoint screen. So with the city of Seattle, where we did our first, where I will speak just because I did some of these first CWA negotiations with the city, we identified workers who were inside our neighborhoods that had the greatest economic distress as one of the highest priorities for the union to attract and then dispatch out so they could work on our jobs. We identified local residents, apprentices who were also either local residents from these economically distressed areas, and we built in preferred entry into apprenticeship jobs. That allowed both local kids, local students who have graduated and are now in the labor force, as well as other workers who fit these local profiles or diversity profiles, to have direct access to compete at the top of the opportunities for apprenticeship work. For the city, for Seattle Public Schools, again, we also built in a preference that said we want you to also send out students and the wage earners who support a student inside a family. So when it comes time to call out a worker from the union hall to work on your jobs, these are the priorities. These are the folks that the unions look for first to fill those opportunities. Anna's going to talk about the success that has had, what a difference it made. It really transformed the workforce that was sitting on city jobs. For the city of Seattle, it was also really important to have goals for people of color and for women, so that those working on the jobs at the City of Seattle look like the people in the community where these buildings or utilities were being built. There's a process that you would go through if you're interested in pursuing creating a community workforce agreement for your community. The first is it's basically you're writing a contract with the unions. You're negotiating out a contract. So you're going to identify a negotiating team that would include at least someone from Federal Way, whether that's your public works director or someone who can talk and speak to the needs inside the construction project. You as policymakers would be identifying the size and the demographics that are important to you. Those are policy sorts of questions that you would be framing. So you would be saying, how big of a project do we want to put this CWA, this Community Workforce Agreement, on? Most in our region, meaning King County, City of Seattle, Seattle Public Schools, have a $5 million threshold. So if your project's $5 million and above, that's when these kick in. There are various considerations that you take into account to decide where you in Federal Way would want that number to be. But I would say at the demarcation line of 5 million and above, you have a robust amount of work that could fall inside that umbrella. Just looking at your online budget, you have 9 projects out of 57 that are above $5 million in the next 6 years inside your capital budget. So there's a robust amount of work that could fall inside here, and again, get dedicated to the demographics of the type of worker you most wish to have on your construction projects. Your negotiating team sits with your building trade unions, you negotiate, you sign your agreement. Your public works director or your procurement contract specialist will integrate it into your bid processes as a requirement that your bidders, your contractors will agree to comply with. There's some different data tracking so that you can have metrics that you can track to see what kind of a change you're able to create through this. And you would have a team who would administer this program. City of Seattle, King County, Sound Transit built theirs in-house. At Seattle Public Schools, since I am a consultant in their team, we have made a decision that we're going to rely on and use the expertise of Anna's team at the City of Seattle. So they will join and give their expertise to help administer, monitor, and enforce this agreement in the construction projects for Seattle Public Schools. However, those are decisions that you, as a policy body, are able to evaluate based on the different options. And then finally, you're building some capacity to make sure your contractors, who many of them are very familiar to you, I could tell from some of the conversations on your contracts earlier in this meeting, that they're familiar with you and you with them. You will want to build in some capacity to support them, to help them understand and easily integrate and implement this into their work as they perform it for you. I'm going to pause briefly before I turn it over to Anna to see if there were any questions I should answer. I think I see, perhaps this is committee chair to call on folks.
Thank you, Nancy. Yes, I think Councilmember Seffer Dawson, do you have a question for Nancy?
Yes, I do. Yeah, my question is, are we talking about projects? Yeah, I have 2 questions. One is, are we talking about projects that the city approves and that are city related, like construction, or is it any company, any developer that comes into our community, to Federal Way, with the threshold that the baseline that you gave us, are building within that, within the 5 million, right? That's one question. And then my second question is, where does the school district fit into this conversation?
Councilmember, it's for the first of those scenarios, it is the projects that you pay for and that you are funding and doing as part of your work as a city. It's for your infrastructure projects. Secondly, with Seattle Public Schools, we really wanted to be able to not only attract former students who have graduated and those wage earners who are supporting students, younger students and families, but we also wanted to help current students build a career pipeline in their community. We wanted them to be able to graduate from Seattle Public Schools with another career option. We know construction careers are high wage, no debt. A student can enter into this career pipeline and not, the average college graduate has a significant debt load when they graduate. If you're in construction career, you are paid as part of your training. That's an apprenticeship job. So we wanted to build a more direct pipeline. We created some elements inside our CWA, inside the Seattle Public Schools CWA, that said when students graduate out of the school district program or similar accredited program, they too will get preference, a preferred entry into the construction workforce that the union will be placing into these jobs.
Yeah, my question was around, my question was around about Federal Way School District, for instance, because we're talking about their students and their,
Federal Way School District uses a program that has a skills training, but it is not a formal pre-apprenticeship program. So your kids would, Federal Way kids would have access to other programs, not the school district funded pre-apprenticeship program, but other programs that are in your area, in your part of King County, that can train them and prepare them and make them eligible for that type of preferred entry onto your jobs. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there's at least communication, because we're talking about their students, basically. So yeah, making sure that there's some level of partnership and agreement between us and the school district if we were to move forward with this. So that was my question.
Mr. Chair, can I chime in?
Yes.
For
yes,
a second?
Go ahead. I know you're
like
you wanted to.
And thank you. And Chair Bruce, you may need to jump in here on here as well. But there's going to be a huge effort, and Councilmember Sefadowson, thank you for your question. There's going to be a lot of collaboration moving forward, and there has been conversations going behind the scenes, and there's a lot of work that's happening in that area. And I know that Representative Johnson is of whom I'm meeting with tomorrow. He's been doing a lot of work in this area as well. And I know that other various labor stakeholders, like perhaps the Labor's 242, they're in process of building a program. I'm taking a look at my notes here. They're also in the process of building a program at Federal Way High School. So there's a lot of little things that are going on, but Chair Bruce, I don't know if you've worked with Superintendent Campbell closely in the past. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but there is collaboration happening and taking place.
No, I mean a little bit from the beginning, when we all know when the school contracts came out, the bonds and things like that, this wasn't even, this was talked about a little bit. But I know that as for creating a CWA for the city, it was more of also a jump point for us to try to see in collaboration with the Federal Way School District how they would want to include this. And Councilmember Moore is correct. I know that Representative Johnson has been working on some type of apprenticeship program, and we will find out probably tomorrow more about what's going on with that one and how that can be incorporated. I think so. There's more to follow on that. I know that was one of the questions that we did have when it first kind of came to light. So hopefully that will be answered in the coming months or so if we could.
And I believe School Board Director Lakeisha Phillips is involved in this policy matter as well. So hopefully that helps, Lydia.
All right. So I will try and be brief because I recognize I stand between you and the rest of your evening.
Anna,
But
is that you? I'm sorry.
yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Just let me, before you go
Yes.
on, I know that, first of all, Councilmember Seven Dawson, that kind of answered your question. I want to make sure that was good. That was
yeah.
Okay.
I thought
Okay,
you could
thank
see
you.
me, so I was doing yes.
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I've got my screen. Thank you. And then I know that Council President Honda had a question. So, did you want to ask now? Or did you want to wait?
I'll go ahead and ask now.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, I'm interested in the you mentioned, I think, for Seattle that you have a $5 million point at which the project must be at $5 million. For the city of Federal Way, we may not have we probably don't have as many projects that the city works on that are at $5 million. Does this not pencil out if it's less than $5 million, if the project is less than $5 million?
I think there are various factors that you'd want to explore about where to put that dollar threshold. There are, you do actually have a substantive amount of work that's at or above your $5 million threshold. But no, there are some, although less, but there are some who started at $0. There's some who use it at a $2 million threshold. So there are, at the City of Seattle and at Seattle Public Schools, the discussion was really around trying to make sure there was lots of work at the below $5 million value that could be for companies who may not want to work inside that environment, but still want to do work for you. And so there's just different factors that you can consider in deciding what that dollar threshold should be for you.
Okay, thank you. And my next question would be our staff and what their opinion is of something like this. Especially like EJ, what do you have an opinion on?
So frankly, Council President, I am hearing this presentation for the first time as well.
Okay.
So I do not have a formed opinion at this point. I'm listening intently, just like you are.
Okay. You know, it's really important that we have. I think the program is certainly worthwhile looking into. I know that there are a lot of jobs out there that are well paid and apprentices are needed. And if we can help, especially students in our school district and in our general region, get out of high school and get into a training program and into a well-paying job that they can work at, it's for the better. It's for our community will be better. So I don't see too many negatives with it, but I'd like to have staff look into this also, if possible. if the mayor directs you to do that.
Anna, I'm sure will say the same, but both Anna and I are more than willing to spend time as is helpful with any of you and or the staff as we can be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's have Anna finish, and then we can continue on to questions. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So again, my name's Anna Pavlik. I'm a manager within the city's purchasing and contracting office. So we are the authority for all the city's construction contracts. We work really closely with all of our capital departments. And so what you see on this slide, we took a look at the workforce that were building our public infrastructure projects prior to implementing this community workforce agreement as what we call priority hire at the City of Seattle. And you can see that in terms of the hours worked on our public works projects prior to starting, we saw a low number of people who come from what we call economically distressed zip codes. So there's zip codes within the entire county that we've deemed to be economically distressed. Similar to the area median income information that you looked at earlier, we took a number of economic factors into play. And 98003 and 98023 are two of those economically distressed zip codes. So we at the city have then, since we've implemented a priority hire in our community workforce agreement, seen a dramatic increase in the share of work going to people who live in those economically distressed parts of King County, including the two zip codes that I mentioned in Federal Way. We've also seen a big increase in the share of work going to apprentices who are people of color and apprentices who are women. We've got a number of other performance data that I can share with you, as Nancy said, at your convenience or with any other staff that you would like involved. Next slide, please. And what that's translated into, thank you, Nancy, is an increase in income, right, going into those communities. And I didn't bring the data for 98003 or 98023, but I could get it for you if you wanted. But basically, since we implemented our community workforce agreement over 5 years ago, we've seen an increase in wages. So normally about $40 million in wages from those going to those construction workers would go in the community. But because of our ordinance and our community workforce agreement, 18 million of those 40 million are due to us establishing the community workforce agreement. We don't think they would have gone there otherwise. So that percentage, that share of hours that we showed you in the last slide translates into about $18 million in wages since end of 2013. It includes 2 private development projects. So to what Councilmember Asefa Dawson mentioned earlier, could you apply this to private development projects? It's possible. We have applied it to the arena at Seattle Center. So again, construction workers living in those 2 zip codes in Federal Way get priority hiring preference onto the arena at Seattle Center. So they're with over 650 workers on that project right now. You can see that there's definitely an economic benefit to establishing these kinds of community workforce agreements. Next slide. And as also been mentioned, you know, as a strong interest in the council, creating these pathways for young folks to get into the trades. There's a number of pre-apprenticeship programs that focus on youth. ANEW has a youth program. There's a youth build pre-apprenticeship. And as mentioned, Federal Way School District is now receiving $250,000 from King County to develop a similar program. So there definitely are pathways for young people to get into this industry and get the training they need to get on their career pathway. Next slide, please. So I've talked briefly about just how we measured the value of our community workforce agreement, but that doesn't tell the whole story, right? We've got folks like Andrea here on the picture who started out in a pre-apprenticeship program called ANEW, which is based in Kent, and is now on the executive board of the Labor's 242 union. She went from making $32 an hour as an apprentice. She's now making $41 an hour as a journey level laborer. And she attributes a lot of her success to being given access to these jobs where we prioritized her because she comes from one of those zip codes. She's also a woman of color. And then there's Tracy, who has started her own flagging business after working enough of these construction jobs to be able to afford to start her own flagging business. And Jessica, who's currently working on the arena, coming out of the prison system, where there's pre-apprenticeship programs available for women at several different correctional facilities, and went straight to work on the arena. So again, a great entryway for folks who've been left behind, and definitely, again, can share with you any more information you like at any point. And I would take questions too.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. I believe that Councilmember Moore had a question. Or comment.
Mr. Chair, it's more of a comment, actually. Maybe I'll just wait till after some questions are being asked, if that's okay.
The only other hand I see right now is Council President Honda.
Oh dear.
If it, oh boy.
There it goes. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
We should have
Where are
little,
we at?
post-it notes. Lower your hand.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for your presentation. I think it's stories like Andrea, Tracy, and Jessica is what, honest to God, makes me really excited as a policymaker. And it's not just about Andrea, Tracy, and Jessica. It's about so much more. You know, as a substitute teacher in our school district, and as a former AmeriCorps member, I see your students, and you know, when advocating for this and the apprenticeship and advocating for working families, it really comes down to creating opportunities and really opening up the doors now more than ever. And I think, you know, this is about us as a city coming together to embrace the people of color, women, and individuals, and say that we have opportunities right here in Federal Way. And it's about strengthening families. And it's also about creating a new sense of culture, I think, for our community as a city. And I think all those things are value. And this is a pivotal time for us to work closely with King County, work closely with the state, work closely with our school district, South King County, to really kind of come together and really uplift students, working families, and other individuals. And so that's why, you know, I'm thankful for Greg's leadership on this. But I'm also thankful for Nancy's time, for Anna's time, for Billy, for Dale. Billy and Dale are both coming from Labor's 242 that have been there for me for several years now of my quest to move forward in this effort to support families right here in Federal Way. You know, with that, I'll end. And so, Greg, thank you for giving the time to Anna, Nancy, and you know, I also would like to play a role that if any council members have questions, you know, Nancy and Anna are a phenomenal resource, and we can connect you with other leaders like Billy to get a better understanding as well. So with that, I'll give the floor back to you, Chair Brusso. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see that Anna and Nancy have your contact information up there. So I know we have more questions, and I know that, like Council President Honda said, you know, it's very important for our staff to have the right proper information to go where we want to go, where we need to go. But I appreciate both Anna and Nancy being here tonight, and again, I thank you, Councilmember Moore, for your advocacy in this, and more to follow.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy, Anna.
Thank you.
Right. We were down to other. Councilmember Moore, do you have anything else? You had your hand up again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Oh, goodness sake. Let's get those Post-its ready.
Okay, so we're down to any other business? Anything? Anyone else? I know it's a long first meeting here, but anything else? Okay, so I need to see any. So our next meeting would be February 1st at 5 o'clock, and I know it's going to be Zoom again, so I'm not going to go into that. But again, I want to say I hope everyone had a great holiday. Happy New Year. Like Council President Honda said, it's going to be a better year. We all know that coming up. And so I'll see everyone tomorrow. And for now, just kind of like the weather's going on, so please stay dry. I know it's raining. I've driven in this rain for 2 days in a row back and forth up north, bring my daughter back to school, and I don't like it. So anyway, with
I'm
that,
waiting for the snow.
Pacific Northwest.
I'm waiting for the snow. Give me the snow.
No, you're driving it like that. I'd rather be in Hawaii. Okay, already.
Don't bring
We're
it
in the
up.
wrong spot. Oh yes.
Bring it up again tomorrow.
I don't think we'll see snow this year.
Yeah, bring it up
maybe
tomorrow.
not.
Oh, don't break
Okay.
my heart, Lydia.
Yeah.
All right.
Go to the mountains if you want to see snow.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
have. I've been to Chelan and Leavenworth.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
All right. Well, we'll see
Alrighty.
everyone tomorrow for
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you guys.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.